Welcome to the Junk Drawer Mamas with your hosts Deena Tricino and Christina Queen. We are so glad you're here with us as we sort through the drama and the trauma of life's hidden struggles to uncover hope and healing with a side of humor on this roller coaster ride we like to call extreme parenting. Whether you're raising a child or a teen with special needs, dealing with challenging behaviors, tackling addiction, mental health issues, or working through the trauma associated with foster care, it's a lot, and we get it. But you don't have to do this alone. So grab a cozy chair, settle in, and let's take this journey together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Junk Drawer Mamas podcast. We are here doing episode 29. I know I say this every time we start. 29. Yes, last week was 28. Yes. I can't believe it. Because it is. For us, it's an accomplishment. Let me tell you.
Yes,
it is an accomplishment just to get here to be present with you guys. And so Christy and I had some time beforehand. We were kind of doing a little business planning before we did the episode, and really we're just sharing our hearts. And we feel like we want to share that with all of you. So I'm going to start us off really before we get into what the episode is about. We just wanted to reiterate again and look at that. It's 11:11 on the clock. I have to take a screenshot on my phone. So I believe God numbers. Is speaking. We do. That's how we kind of connected when we first met, was like biblical numbers, like seeing double, triple, quadruple numbers. So anyway, it's 11:11 a.m. here where we are at in Michigan, and she's in Ohio, and we're recording this episode. When we first decided to do the Junk Drawer Mamas, it was really just an extension of the conversations that her and I would have. We were driving home from a long business trip, and we had, a 12-hour drive, however long it was. And we were just talking, and we always felt like we were healing, just by getting it out, having somebody to, run ideas by or just talk about. And it was almost like an inner healing type session. We live in different states, and when we only travel a couple times a year together. So a lot of times our conversations are really just on Zoom or on a phone call. And it's always something that we start off with, like, this is really bothering me. And then as we process it, and both of us, I think, hold each other accountable. So it's not like just somebody that's like, oh, yeah, that really sucks. No, I think we actually really help us process it, and we hold each other accountable, whether it's something that we don't want to hear. We say it to the other person, and that's what a good friend is. Well, that's really what we wanted the podcast to be. We just felt like it was so good that we didn't want to just keep it to ourselves. And that's where Junk Drawer Mamas was birthed, because we felt like we were just digging through the junk drawer of life. And pulling stuff out. And a lot of times we put the stuff back in that we already healed, and then you got to pull it back out again. So inner healing is an intentional journey. You hear us say that a lot on this podcast, that it is very intentional. And I would say the more you work on yourself, the better version of yourself that you are, the bigger the attacks are. The more that God is refining you, and the more the enemy is trying to get you discouraged. So we've both been in that season where, like, we know something big is coming in our lives individually and then even collectively together. So it feels like we're in this constant battle, even sometimes, with each other. We are like, that's the same thing I'm going through. We're sitting there talking about it, and God is doing something. But that's really what we wanted the podcast to represent. So I was coming to her this morning feeling a little bit heavy burden, because I feel like I don't know how to jump through all the hoops, the podcast hoops and all the social media hoops, to make sure that we attract the right people and do all that. I felt burdened and heavy burdened by that, because we really just want to share our stories, love on you moms out there. And even if you're not a mom and you just happen to come across this, we just want to love on you and know that you're not alone. That's really what our whole premise behind doing this. It wasn't so that we could be popular. It wasn't so we can get a whole bunch of views or whatever. If God chooses to do that, I found myself, kind of stressing about following the protocol of podcast and making sure the reels look perfect and all that stuff. And I had a conversation with our coach, and I was feeling very discouraged at the end of that. Like, I don't know if we should be doing this. And then a conversation that Christina and I had helped pull us back together. And that was really about, this is imperfect parenting. What we do is imperfect parenting. It's extreme parenting. It doesn't have to look perfect. It's not supposed to look perfect, because then we won't even be able to relate to those people that are feeling like nobody understands my life. If you came to my house and saw how messy it was, not just physical mess, but like internal, the stress that I deal with, the kids that I deal with, my marriage that's falling apart, my health issues, all those things, you might feel like you can't approach us if everything is too perfect.
Right.
Now, obviously, we want to be able to reach as many people that God wants us to reach. But even if it was one person that heard this podcast and felt like they found their tribe, then I think what we're doing is worth it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it does help the two of us. We just want to share that with all of you. Okay. And so one of the things that was, mentioned is that our podcasts are very long because a lot of times we are very talkative and it goes too long.
Yes.
So we're going to try to keep it shorter, but really we just want to ask you, what do you like? Do you like when they go 50 some minutes? Do you want to keep them 30 minutes? Like to keep them at 30 minutes is going to be very much a challenge for us.
We're going to try.
We will try. We'll try that. But what if, we don't know what you guys like? We'll do 2 hours if you want us to. But I'm just saying, I watch a podcast.
We can talk for a very long time.
That is about 2 hours every time. And I don't watch it all in one sitting. I just play it and when I'm driving or whatever, and I might get to the episode in a few days. But it's such good content and it's very relaxed. It's more of a conversation between him and his co-host. And sometimes he'll have a guest. And I just love that kind of stuff. So there are people out there that will watch a longer podcast. If you're looking for like those quick little tidbits of stuff, then, maybe this isn't quite what you're looking for. Because I think that when you're walking through an extreme situation, inner healing is something that is a process. You can't get that in quick little fixes. Like you might need those little doses so that you can remember how to keep renewing your mind or doing whatever it is that you're walking through. But honestly, real inner healing is deep work and it takes deep conversations and it takes time. So anyway, that's really what we wanted to share with you. And we're already, 5-6 minutes in. And just to tell you, let us know.
So now we got to talk fast.
But honestly, we really just want to be two moms having a conversation and not try to be perfect because we are imperfect. We really are. We make a lot of mistakes. And that's really going to lead into this episode. And, because
that's why we need Jesus so much.
That's right.
Because we make a lot of mistakes.
Right. So today's episode really is about what do you do when motherhood doesn't look like you thought it was going to be. And I'm going to share a quick story and then I'll turn it over to Christina. So again, it goes back to that imperfect parenting. It doesn't matter how much inner healing we get, how much deliverance, how much becoming the best version of yourself. There are still moments where you don't handle it right. Yeah. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, intentionally putting that oxygen mask on ourselves, or we're overworking, a lot of times God asks us to rest. And if you don't rest, he'll make it happen. And it could be in the form of a sickness or something that requires you to slow down. And I've had that happen to me.
Yeah. He doesn't give us a sickness, but he can allow it.
He can. He absolutely can, because it's like, nope, she needs to lay down. She needs to rest. So I've been in a very busy season for quite a while. And so is Christina. And I find that I'm having a hard time enjoying being a mom. Just enjoying life in general. I'm finding a hard time finding joy in that. I actually do find a lot of joy in doing the podcast or my daily recordings that I'll put up every day. I really enjoy doing that. Talking to whoever's listening. I always say there's another mom on the other end of that or whoever.
Yeah. Deena loves to talk.
I do.
Like me.
But the whole mom-wife thing, sometimes it gets old and I don't want to do it because I find there's no joy in that. Now, that doesn't mean that they're doing something wrong to cause it. It has something to do with me and how I'm receiving that, because sometimes it is hard. It is messy, even when you're partnering with God. So last night, I don't know, I guess my nervous system was fried. It was time for bed. The bedtime routines in our house are always very challenging. Although you have 11 kids to get to bed. I have one and it's challenging. So anyway, she had to go to the bathroom. I told her, just hold on and wait. And as you guys know, I have a special needs child and she can't use the restroom on her own. And she decided to go without me and had a very, very messy mess. And I was just not in the place to say, it's okay, we'll clean it up, because it was such a big mess. Like, where do you even start? It was everywhere. And I was so angry with her because she didn't wait. And I was in the middle of doing something else, and I was already had 10 things that I was trying to do to get ready. And my husband's watching TV, and I'm like, this isn't fair. I have to do all this. So I was starting to yell. I yelled at her. I'm like, why didn't, so anyway, not a very proud mom moment, very imperfect, very messy moment, but it was an extreme situation because this is not something that most moms go through on a day-to-day basis. Maybe if you have a toddler, but not an adult-sized child. Okay. Yeah. So when that's like your daily life, this is not what motherhood looked like for me. And I know I've shared these on here, so I'm not trying to say this to complain. I'm saying this, this is a very intentional way of I have to accept that this is what God has, but there is joy in it. I can actually find joy in it. So when we first got on to record the episode, I was, letting her know that I wasn't okay, but then I am. She goes, what shifted for you? I said, I just decided to, in my time with God, I chose the better path. And so there would have been a time where I would have let that thing fester and be upset for days, months even. I would just been mad at every single person that was part of it or not a part of it. And now it might be an evening. I did go to bed angry, but I did pray. We still prayed, and I went to bed angry. And I just said, God, I don't know. I don't want to do this anymore. And right now, that's all I got. I am angry right now. And when I went lay down to go to bed, I was scrolling through my phone, and I came across this reel. This guy is crying. He's talking about how do you break generational trauma. He said, you cannot yell at your kids before they go to bed and expect them to go to sleep and sleep well. You can't yell at your kids before they go to school and expect them to have a happy, joyful day and learn. And I was so convicted in that moment. So although Gracie was already asleep, I did ask God to forgive me for choosing the wrong path, for choosing to let my emotions run the best of me. But that only comes from inner healing. That only comes from because I chose to do the intentional work. And this is why we do the podcast, so that we could work all this stuff out. If I didn't have somebody that I could talk to about it, then
And
I
when
don't know
she
how it
says
would go.
when she says inner healing, for people that might not be familiar with it, we're talking about getting your heart healed, letting Jesus
Thank
do the
you.
heart work, getting our heart healed up. Because if our heart is still hurting and broken over past trauma, some of it, a lot of it, we don't even realize that hurt's there until it starts getting pulled out and starts getting rebuilt, and we're like, wow, I didn't know that was even still there. But
Yeah.
because that's still there, it's causing XYZ, and this is the way it's looking in my life. This is the way it's spilling over into my family, and I'm projecting this and that on my kids because I've never dealt with that. It's never been healed. That's stuff that's still in the junk drawer there and tucked away, and we don't want to deal with it because who wants to pull out painful stuff and deal with it? Most people don't. But if we don't, and we don't get that healed, and we don't get that heart healing, that inner healing, then it's gonna keep, coming out in ways that we don't want it to, showing up in our lives in ways that we don't want it to, and spilling over in relationships with our kids and our family members, and even people that we come into contact with. There's triggers in everything. Something may trigger us, that we didn't even realize was a trigger when we're out and about. Next thing you know, and no, you're, yelling at or griping at or having a bad attitude with someone, whether it's a cashier or whoever. And had we had that healed the way we should have and dealt with it, then we may not have just hurt that person that didn't need the way we acted towards them. They didn't need that. Instead, we could have shown them the love of God, shown them that we are Christ-like, and that we are walking the walk the way that we're supposed to, instead of just on people because we haven't dealt with our stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. When we don't deal with our stuff, then we do take it out on other people. It could be out in public. So we are in such a state of offense in this world right now. I can't even tell you the amount of stuff that I have read in the news, and I'm not a big news reader. I usually do try to keep my mind clear from that. Not that I don't know what's going on. I do think we do need to be mindful of what's going on in our world. But my well-being, my mental well-being, I can't maintain a good mental well-being when I'm constantly focusing on all the negative stuff, especially in our world right now, in our country, all the devastating things that are going on. But just in my local area, so that when it gets really close to home, there's 2 incidences from fast food restaurants where a manager or somebody got killed because one of the employees went off on them. One girl stabbed a McDonald's manager in a McDonald's that's just down the street from my house. And the other one was a 7-Eleven or something like that. And the girl ended up, another employee smashed her head, and the girl ended up dying. Now, I know this has nothing to do with extreme parenting or anything like that. But honestly, those people were kids at one point. They had parents at one point. And if those parents would have done the inner work, the healing up their hearts, they wouldn't have passed that down. I'm not trying to blame parents here. That's not my point. But when you become an adult that is to the point where you can kill another human being because you're just upset with them, that has a generational effect to it.
They don't know
There
how to
is a
handle. Yeah.
there is a
Yeah.
generational trauma that goes
Yeah.
deeper there than just that particular moment. And we don't know what's going on in that person's life, or if they even had parents in their life that are still alive or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is why we work so hard on trying to bring all this stuff out so we don't pass it down. But even social media, we are both a part of a lot of special needs moms
Yeah.
groups. And I cannot tell you how many messages or posts I save from a mom just like literally at the end of a rope. She just can't do it anymore. She
Yeah.
feels alone. And then there's a lot of people that come in and, there's the encouraging stuff. But then there's a lot of people that will come in and criticize because they're in the state of offense and overwhelm. So it
Right.
is what our world is like that, but then you add that into your own home, you know what I'm saying? And then we've got to be very careful about what we're putting into our eyes and our ears and in our hearts, because it does leave deep wounds. Okay. So I know we kind of went off topic of what I was talking about. Like, what do you do when motherhood doesn't look the way you want it to do? I think it's okay that it doesn't look that way.
Yeah.
I think it's okay that it's imperfect. I think that we don't need to try to pretend that we're something. And that does go along with what I said in the morning, the beginning of this episode, is that it doesn't have to look a certain way. This is how we are. This is how we are showing up. And our hearts are pure, and we want to help other people. It may not look the way everybody else's podcast looks, but our marriages don't look the same way everybody else's does.
Right.
When you're parenting in extreme situations, your marriage doesn't always look the same way. It doesn't look like a fairy tale romance. I'm not sure how many marriages actually do look like a fairy tale romance, but mine does not. We have good moments and we have bad moments, but it's a very
Yeah.
intentional staying together when you're in an extreme situation,
Yeah.
especially when you're raising adult children that are dealing with addictions or mental health issues or their own relational issues. That spills over into your life. Those are extreme situations, and I get everybody deals with those things, but it is an imperfect life. But we serve a perfect God.
Yes.
We serve an absolutely perfect God. And this is where I want Christina to step in, because she's so good, I think, at breathing life back into somebody that feels like they've made too many mistakes and life is just messy.
That's because that's my world. I feel like I make too many mistakes every day. And, there probably isn't a whole lot of people out there that's harder on themselves or has been harder on themselves than me. And it's just very recently, and I still have issues and problems with it daily, but giving yourself grace when you do mess up, because we're not perfect. If we were perfect, we wouldn't need Jesus. He's there to be our helper and our guide and our friend and our father and all of the stuff that we need, because we live in an imperfect world. We're always going to have that feeling like, if I do this way, then this person's going to, at least me anyways, then this person's going to, have a problem with me, or they're going to think I'm this or that. And then if I do it like this, and it doesn't matter how perfect we're trying to be, there's still going to be somebody that doesn't agree with it. It's not going to be perfect to a whole other group of people, even if we're doing it the way that we feel like, hey, I've really got this right, I'm doing this right. You still have somebody that's going to have something to say about it. We're
Yes.
never, ever, ever going to truly, no matter how we try, how hard we try, do this perfect, period. It's not even possible, because we're human and we're not perfect. And when you've got kids and you've got anybody else in your life that you're trying to take care of and do life with, you got their imperfect stuff coming in on you too. And then you got to try to always deal with them the exact right way. It's just not going to happen. It's not logical to even think that we can do it. Can we do better? We can always do better. There's always, always, always room for improvement. But what we can't do, what we cannot let the devil allow us to do, is to be so hard on ourselves that we just feel defeated, that we feel like, you know what, why even try? This sucks. I hate this. This is too hard. I don't want to do this. And I'm saying this because I've gotten in this place way too many times. Like, so many people that could do this better than me. God, why? Why do you keep bringing the kids to us? We mess up all the time, and it's hard. And then you just feel defeated. You feel, you know, I mean, when we mishandle our kids, when we don't, or even our spouses, when we're not talking to them right, or we're not treating them the right, you go back and, in that moment in time when you're like frustrated and then you go back and you're by yourself and you're like, man, I screwed up. Man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to damage my kids. I don't want to damage my relationships. I'm doing this because I want to do this right. I want to love like Jesus. I want to do all the things that you're asking me to do, but man, I screw up so much. God, why? Why are you having me do this? Why do you choose me to do this? Because it's too hard. I can't do this. That's when we get under condemnation. That is when we allow the devil to condemn us and beat us up and say, see, you screwed up again. You're not meant to do this. You can't do this. You might as well just give it up and let somebody else do this, because this is just too much for you. You're not able to do this. That's the condemnation. That's when we're listening to what he's telling us instead of what he's telling us. Because when we listen to what Jesus is telling us instead of what the enemy is telling us, what we hear is, you messed up, yes, but it's okay. I'm giving you grace. There's always the next time. You can correct this. Go back and talk to them. Tell them you're sorry. Kids are so forgiving. Just like Jesus is. Kids are so forgiving. And if you go to your kid, and there is nothing wrong with going to your child and apologizing. You should
100%.
you should
That's
ask.
actually what I did this morning.
Yes.
Gracie
If
got
you
up,
mess
she
up,
instantly, yep.
yes, apologize to them. I mean, if not, then you're just operating in a spirit of pride.
Yeah.
You are operating in a spirit of pride. Like, I'm not telling my kid, because then what? They're going to know you're human and you make
Right.
mistakes,
It
and you're
also teaches
person.
them to be able to go and
Right.
apologize to
Yes.
somebody else.
And there was a generation that we were raised in that oh no, you don't apologize. That's just simply not true. And it just creates hardened hearts of, well, I'm not going to, even when I'm wrong, I'm not going to apologize because I'm up here and no.
Yep.
We need to learn to do it right. And in learning that we are going to mess up always, we will forever mess up in some way, shape, or form. But the key to doing it right is not being perfect. It's to going back and, getting forgiveness. It's going back and talking to our kids. It's going back and repenting to Jesus when we need to repent to Jesus and say, hey, I messed up. I want to do this again. That's what, that's what it's about. It's not about always being perfect, because we're always going to make that mistake. We're always going to mess up. But when we get it right, we'll know, because we go back and we give ourselves grace. We apologize. We clean up our mess.
Yes.
We don't just walk away from it and act like it was never there and act like we didn't leave a mess. We go back and clean it up.
So, what I was just thinking while you were saying that is that, like, what does perfect parenting even look like? When we say, like, we're imperfect parents, I think everybody is. But this goes back to what I was saying in the very beginning when we were talking about the podcast. If we are constantly trying to make everything look like there isn't any issues, then we're not being authentic. So
Right.
This is one of those things. I'm not a big fan of Instagram. I know people are probably going to be like, what, Instagram? No, I'm not, because everything is so over edited and so perfect. I can't tell you how many reels have come up that just says you can make these really pretty reels on your iPhone and all. I don't even have an iPhone, but I'm just saying, like,
it's like Hollywood. It's like our own little Hollywood that we can
and all the filters and everything. And then you feel like, I can't do that. I can't make that reel look that pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do the 3-second hook. I don't know how to do all this stuff. I just want somebody to hear my heart. So then we take that into motherhood, and, like, my life doesn't look like that. This is like, so I don't think anybody's life looks like that. I think if you took a camera and went into someone's home at any given time without them knowing you were coming, I'm not talking about, like, the guest is coming, so you clean up the house. I think everybody's life would look messy.
Yes.
I think being here on
life
this
is messy.
earth is messy.
It is. Life is messy.
I think this is not just for extreme parenting. I think it's anybody feels that way. But if you're trying to meet a certain standard, because you have to have your hair a certain way, and you have to have the certain clothes and the certain bag and your kids have to, they have to have the perfect life. I think that is where your heart starts feeling, I want to say, burdened, because that's not really what we were meant to carry. That's where I think they're the ones that are probably more burdened. I think those of us that are, I want to say, owning our mess, there's more freedom in that, because now
Yeah.
you don't have to try to impress anybody else.
Yeah.
So I can sit here and say on our podcast that, yep, I yelled and screamed at my daughter last night and she went to bed crying. Yes, we did pray, but it wasn't a very good prayer. And yes, God convicted me. And this morning I got up and I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what real parenting looks like. And she
Yeah.
said, it's okay, Mom. I said, I'm sorry. I yelled at you. I shouldn't have done that. But then I said instantly, my mom hat went on. I'm like, but you got to tell me when you have to go to the bathroom. You can't just go to the bathroom in your pants because Mom was busy doing the dishes. You know what I'm saying? You have to wait. I know that you can do this. So there was a little bit of a lesson in there, but we did say sorry. But at the moment, at night, I couldn't. I was not in a physical, mental place to say I was sorry. I prayed, kissed her goodnight. I went to bed and I cried, and God and I had a conversation. That's what real parenting looks like. That's what real life looks like.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like the Instagram reels.
Right.
You know, so I guess when you say, you know, the disappointment of what does motherhood look like when life doesn't look the way it's supposed to, maybe it looks exactly the way God intended for you.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it look like somebody else's life. And maybe that other person has to do all the stuff so that they feel at peace. Yeah. And those of us that embrace our mess, what we have to do to gain our peace is just go to the Father, go to Jesus and say, I'm giving this mess to you, my imperfect mess to you. Yeah. Can you please do something with this? Because I can't right now. Right. I just can't today.
Yes.
I ain't got time for this today, Jesus. Can you take this? So anyway.
Yeah.
My life was so good. I really needed these today.
So much. It just feels like so much of the time for me, you know, I was telling you, it just feels like I'm winging it. Like I'm winging everything, like whatever, you know, like almost like anything goes, you know, it feels like that. A lot of the time it can just feel overwhelming in that aspect. Like it doesn't look the way I wanted it to. So, and it just looks like this instead, but sometimes that's okay. It doesn't have to look like, you know, the other, you know, and it probably never will. Honestly, I don't think any of ours is ever going to look the way that we truly thought it would, or even the way that we want it to, but it can be good. And we can find joy in all that, right in the middle of all the imperfection. We can find joy in raising our kids when it feels like the joy's been sucked out because we're tired or whatever. We get alone with God. We renew our minds. We get the right heart. We ask God, fix my heart in this because my heart is not where it's supposed to be. I feel like I'm losing the joy in my daily life. Our kids are supposed to bring us joy. Our spouses, our relationships are supposed to bring us joy. So if it's not, like you said, then there's a problem with us and in our heart. And we need to get alone with God and we need to correct that.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a different perspective.
Right.
And I'm not saying that the other person doesn't have to do their work too, especially when you're talking about a spouse. Of course they do. Yeah. It's not just one person, but if you're the only person doing it at that moment, at least somebody's doing something. And I used to think that wasn't fair. Right. But then I realized that what an amazing relationship I get to have with God because I'm choosing to let go of my own stuff.
Yes.
So you really first have to get to a place of awareness that things are not going well. Yeah. And then you've got to do the work. We tell you this all the time. There is no quick fix. You got to do the work. You have to be the one that says, okay, I didn't handle that right. Right. Or I'm not finding joy in motherhood right now. Yeah. You know, and that's where I was at. I'm not finding joy. God can take that mess and turn it around, and I actually can find joy. I don't know if I ever can find joy in cleaning up poopy messes, but I might. I don't know. But if I'm not even seeking out how to find joy.
That's a stretch, but maybe.
I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying that we can. We just have to remind ourselves that there is so much more to this than just the day-to-day stuff that we're going through. Yeah. And God will use whatever it takes to get us to the end of ourselves, even if it's poopy messes. I'm just saying, like,
absolutely. There's a lesson to be learned in everything. I've definitely gotten to that point to where I realized that. But this has been a really good episode because I needed to hear.
I know we're getting to the end. We're at 30 minutes, and I'm sad.
We got 1 minute. We got 1 minute.
I don't want it to end. So anyway,
I know I enjoy. Yeah.
Let us know whether you want them to go longer, maybe halfway in between.
Because we're very willing to go longer.
We really are willing to keep going. And honestly,
we're going to try this probably for a couple of times, and hopefully we'll get some feedback letting us know whether you guys like more of this or whether you want to hear more, because we're very willing to talk longer.
We're having a good time. I'm just saying, we
really
are. And we really needed this because at first I came on this morning and I was like
feeling defeated.
Feeling defeated, and I feel like my bucket's been filled up.
Yes, same.
It's amazing you could do that in 30 minutes. But anyway.
That's our Jesus.
All right. So anyway, we want you to know that it's okay to be messy. It's okay that you have an imperfect life. It's okay that you're grieving what you thought motherhood would look like or what marriage would look like. It's okay. It's okay where you're at. God's going to work you through all of that. And we're right here holding your hand. We're walking through this with you. We're walking through this treacherous terrain with you. And we love you. Yes. And we can't wait to be back together again. We'll see what we're going to talk about next week. Yeah. So anyway, have an awesome week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us and listening to the Junk Drawer Mamas podcast. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with a mom who could use a little extra love and support. We'd love to hear from you too. Leave us a review and let us know what you think, or send us your ideas for what you want us to tackle in the junk drawer. You can email us anytime at junkdrawermamas@gmail.com. Stay connected with us on social media. Follow Deena at Specially Empowered Moms and Christina at Faith Through Foster Care for more encouragement and updates on our upcoming books. From two mamas in the throes of extreme parenting, we want you to know that you're doing a great job, mama, and you don't have to have it all together. But what's hidden can't be healed, so let's keep sorting through it together, one step, one story, and one laugh at a time. See you next time when we tackle another item in the junk drawer of life. Have an awesome week.